We now have a direct admission from Secretary of State Marco Rubio that the Trump administration broke the law. On March 15th, the government sent multiple planes full of immigrants off to a work camp in El Salvador. And now, just a few days ago on Thursday, March 27th, we have a direct admission from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, that the government broke the law in doing so. We're gonna go ahead and watch the clip of what he said, and then we'll talk about why it matters. Bear with me here for a minute. Marco Rubio is a bit of a rambler, just like Trump, so he goes off for a little bit longer than he needs to here.
Secretary Rubio, when you and President Bukele, you mentioned Trinidad several times, when you and President Bukele negotiated the deal to transfer the U.S. deportees to his prison in Secot, did you discuss any provisions to ensure that individuals mistakenly identified as gang members would have access to legal recourse, or that they can secure their release if they are wrongfully?
Yeah, we have that list was carefully vetted, provided to us by Homeland Security. We have confidence in it. What we negotiated is the reality that they in El Salvador comply with all the international requirements for imprisonment. So we sent them people. It was a combination of people, gang members, people we knew were involved in activities that were not productive to the United States. All of them removable in terms of our laws, all of them. Every single one of them was someone who was removable from the United States, irrespective. And MS-13 members, many of whom are Salvadoran, that we had identified as MS-13 members that they had helped us identify as well. So it was a combination of people that we sent. And, we may send more. We'll see. I mean, it's up to their willingness to accept, but we're grateful to them for the opportunity to do that. And remember, one of the reasons why we had to send some of those...
Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and pause it right there. I really don't care about anything else he has to say after that. We're going to go ahead and break down a few of the things he said and why they matter. The first thing that is absolutely vital for you to know is that pursuant to the Alien Enemies Act, which is the law that the Trump administration used to deport these people, to use the AEA, the president must issue a proclamation, and within that proclamation, he must lay out exactly the type of person that he's trying to target. A very good and easy to understand example of this is during World War II, we used the Alien Enemies Act, and the target was German and Japanese citizens living within the United States. That example is so easy to comprehend and understand because it's very simple. We were at war with the Germans and the Japanese, so we will use the Alien Enemies Act to remove German and Japanese people from the country. But as we'll see real soon, it's not so simple this time around. So as mentioned, the president has to issue a proclamation detailing the type of person he's trying to target. And on March 15th, Donald Trump did. He states very clearly in this proclamation who the target is. So right here in the highlighted portion, Donald Trump, or whoever writes these things for him, wrote, "I proclaim that all Venezuelan citizens 14 years of age or older who are members of TDA are within the United States and are not actually naturalized or lawful permanent residents of the United States are liable to be apprehended, restrained, secured, and removed as alien enemies." What this means in the absolute simplest of terms is that Trump can only use the Alien Enemies Act pursuant to his own proclamation against people that are 14 years of age, citizens of Venezuela, and members of TDA. And they also have to be not naturalized in the US, meaning not US citizens, or lawful permanent residents, meaning they don't have green cards. Now, there is some evidence that some of the people he used the act on did have green cards, but we don't have solid proof of that yet, so we won't get into it. We might make a video on that portion later in the future when more evidence comes out. But after having read that to you, you might be catching on to where I'm going with this. I will make clear one more time. Trump can only use the Alien Enemies Act because of his own declaration against Venezuelan citizens that are members of TDA. So now we will go back to Marco Rubio's statement. Let's go ahead and take one more listen to this. Listen very carefully. He blatantly admits that they violated the law.
So we sent them people. It was a combination of people, gang members, people we knew were involved in activities that were not productive to the United States.
That line right there, people we knew were not productive to the United States, what does that mean? And that's not even necessarily the part I'm talking about, but that line stood out to me. That's so weird for him to describe it that way. It almost seems like he's hedging a little bit. But this is the really important line right here.
All of them removable in terms of our laws, all of them. Every single one of them was someone who was removable from the United States, irrespective. And MS-13 members, many of whom are Salvadoran.
Jesus, he couldn't have spelled it out anymore for you right there. That is an admission from Marco Rubio that some of the people deported on March 15th on those flights to El Salvador were MS-13 members, some of whom are Salvadoran. Now, you might think that's a little weird because we just read in the proclamation that they were only able to use the act on Venezuelans, not Salvadorans, and members of TDA, not members of MS-13. Now, I want to be so unbelievably, incredibly clear here. So far, there is no evidence at all provided by the government or provided anywhere that any of the people sent to El Salvador on those flights were a member of any gang. MS-13, TDA, anything. So I'm extremely hesitant to believe anything he says here. But that being said, whether or not the people that were sent on those planes were a part of any gang doesn't matter. We have admission Direct, clear as day admission from the Secretary of State right here in front of us that some of the people that were deported on those flights sent to a work camp in El Salvador, probably for life, were not eligible to be deported under the law they used to do it. And even worse, that they knew it. Deporting any of those people in the way that they actually did it was a flagrant violation of all of their Fifth Amendment rights to due process. So the action was already unlawful constitutionally, and the courts are already working through that right now, something we're keeping up to date with and we'll cover in the future as it progresses. But now we have a direct statement out of the mouth of our Secretary of State that the move was also unlawful statutorily. They broke the law as written. And even worse, they knew they were breaking the law as written while they were doing it. Or, more likely, they just didn't care that they were breaking the law. Like I said, of course, we're going to keep following this case as it progresses, and we'll talk about it more as needed. I certainly hope the ACLU lawyers take this clip from Marco Rubio and use it as evidence that the Trump administration violated the law with these deportations. They're already absolutely decimating the government in court over all of this, but this is just another piece of evidence to add onto the pile to make it even worse. If you want to look into this for yourself, I'll have a link down in the description for my sources and notes for this video. I always strongly recommend that you do your own research on everything. That way, if you have a friend or a family member or something that you're trying to convince on stuff like this, you have all the information at your fingertips. You've already looked into it yourself. You've already done the research, and you can make those arguments when you need to. But yeah, if you want to use my notes and my sources as a jumping off point for your own research, like I said, link in the description. You can download the PDF for it and you'll be good to go. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you wouldn't mind leaving a like and a comment and subscribing to the channel, that would be awesome. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you with the next crazy thing this admin does.